We've been talking to China about increasing the level of investment in things like manufacturing, productive services, and so on. The obvious partnership was between the Bank of China and the Industrial Development Corporation. It's not the only one. We've also signed an agreement with the China-Africa Development Fund, and we will be engaging with a range of Chinese financial institutions. In November, China will be hosting the China International Import Expo in Shanghai, and that's another opportunity to reach out to the Chinese capital markets. China has a growing and quite deep capital market, and we have great opportunities in productive and profitable investment, and that match is what that partnership is about. There's been, over the last few days, an enormous amount of interaction between the Chinese business community and that in South Africa. And South Africa will also have a presence in Shanghai at the Shanghai or the China International Import Exhibition. And in addition to that, we're talking about the technical work that needs to be done that would allow South Africa in future to set up a South African Chamber of Business in China itself. That will take us a number of months to get over the finish line, but we've had very productive discussions between myself and Minister Wang Wentao on that project. This is not an exclusive trading arrangement that BRICS will only trade with itself. We also stand for open markets globally. If you look at the history of humanity over a number of decades, in fact hundreds of years, we as human beings have been interacting more with each other. And since the end of the Second World War, there's been a strong attempt at creating a stable global architecture that promotes trade and investment between countries. And not only between friends, but between countries, because that has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. It's boosted global growth. And so BRICS will also be putting forward the argument for a global trading system that works. There's a universal agreement by countries in the South, not only BRICS countries, but all African countries, Latin American countries, that we have not been well served with the Bretton Woods model, that the IMF and the World Bank has not given the kind of concessional funding and the scale of the funding that's required to lift many, many people out of poverty. So there's a need for a reform within those financial institutions. And in addition to that, BRICS itself can complement those efforts by building the new development bank. The new development bank will have more shareholders in future, and it will be able to raise, we hope, significant additional capital that can be deployed into productive investment. Why the new development bank is particularly important is the deficit in many developing countries is infrastructure, energy, transport, logistics, and critically water in a number of places. More recently, of course, digital infrastructure, because the world is digitizing and there's new opportunities that come from digital industrialization, but that requires infrastructure. So the complementarity of a reform of the international financial institutions, that more capital is made available, more concessional terms are negotiated, and that these are done without the kind of onerous conditionalities that historically have been imposed on developing countries. That, together with the new development bank, can be a boost to global development and particularly development of the global South. From our point of view as BRICS, we're looking also at energy, looking at green energy. The world has to prepare for the reality of climate mitigation. Weather patterns are being disturbed across the world. And so all countries are committed to finding a just transition to a greener path. At the same time, of course, the speed with which we do that needs to recognize the vulnerability of economies with additional costs. I can make the point that there will be a lot of collaboration within BRICS on promoting green energy. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, colleagues.